Welcome to Hip to the Scene. Talking music, videos, and everything in between.
Hello, everybody. My name is Andy Gesner, welcoming you to episode 10 of Hip to the Scene. Every episode, we check in with an expert, someone who is fully qualified and 100% hip to the scene. They're the best person out there to be the one to answer the question that we know our viewers, artists, bands all over the world are looking to have answered. So today is a very special day because over the last 24 months, this question has been one posed to me literally hundreds of times. And what's important to note, folks, is we all know there's nothing more exhilarating than the thrill of live music. But as we know, live music faced some hardships over the last 2 years. Still, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. To guide us, there is no one better than today's guest on episode 10 of Hip to the Scene, Liz Tallent. Liz is the secretary of the Southeast chapter of the National Independent Venue Association, also known as NIVA. She is here to help us get to the bottom of the question we're all asking: what does the future of live music look like? Liz, welcome to Hip to the Scene.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Well, you're very welcome. You're so ensconced in this 24-month journey. And I think our viewers need to know what a challenging 24 months it has been.
Yes, that's true. It has been quite challenging.
So take us back to March of 2020 and how we all thought about a year later in April, things were going to be good, and then they weren't good. But I think overall, we can all agree this has not been good.
No, I think that's true. I think, we could choose to recognize the silver linings that have come out of it, such as the formation of NIVA, which I think has been an extremely influential and powerful force for small businesses in our industry and will continue to be really critical as we go forward. But, overall, the pandemic, I think, was really very challenging for the live events industry. And I think we lost some small businesses. I know we lost some venues in my community, and I know that happened across the country. I don't think that things are fully back to normal yet. And I also think that there is a great wariness about when the other shoe might drop, are we coming back? We never are fully safe when what our main revenue source is people gathering in person, and we're still in a pandemic situation. So, I think our industry has shown a lot of resilience, a lot of strength. I've been just endlessly impressed with the folks that I've met through NIVA and how many hats they were able to wear and how effective they were at advocacy and, at getting some relief when their day-to-day job is nothing to do with that. It's been, really impressive. But I think we're not out of the woods yet. And I think, there are ongoing challenges and different levels of struggle depending on where you are nationally and how the pandemic has impacted your state or what your legislation are that you're having to live under. So yeah, it's definitely been a very difficult 2 years, and still lots of challenges out there.
Well, for everyone watching this episode of Hip to the Scene, you need to know Liz is a very special person. And like many of us on our life journey, things happen for a reason, but things happen when you least expect it. And Liz actually began her journey all the way back in 2006. Now, the plan was to work temporarily at Asheville, North Carolina's historic event concert venue, the Orange Peel. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the Orange Peel. And this was going to be between jobs. Now, as the highest ticket-selling indie artist club on the Southeast Circuit, the Orange Peel has showcased artists including the Beastie Boys, Lauryn Hill, Jack White, countless others. What began as covering a management role for 6 months turned into Liz filling the role of venue manager and marketing special events director. And she's been doing that ever since. Her undying passion and energy has allowed for the local music and entertainment culture to prosper, amplifying this successful setting for quality experiences for both bands and music fans. Now, her contributions to Indie Nation don't stop there. Her position and involvement with NIVA has put her at the forefront of the Save the Stage movement, which provides funds to arts and entertainment entities affected by the pandemic. She recognizes better than anyone that music venues are not the same as any other small businesses. They need both internal and external support. Luckily, Tallent and others in the venue business have remained steadfast, tenacious. Talk about stick-to-itiveness and this incredible mission to save the live music industry. Now, how it's being done is an ever-evolving, ongoing undertaking, but with knowledgeable and experienced people like Liz, we know live music is in good hands. Outside of that, Liz is a proud wife and mother of her 3 children in her North Carolina neighborhood, and in her spare time, they love spending time in the indie music hub downtown Asheville, North Carolina has to offer.
That's about everything. That sums it up.
And talk about how Asheville's a pretty special place. I have dear friends in Greenville, South Carolina. Man, they love the Orange Peel, Liz. It doesn't even matter that they have to drive 90 minutes to get there. They love the Orange Peel. And I'm sure you can speak to why that particular venue is so special.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. The Orange Peel is celebrating our 20th anniversary this October. So we opened in 2002. And as you mentioned, I came on board in 2006. So I missed the first 4 years, but not quite, first 3.5 years. And, we are an 1,100 person standing room club. We're right downtown. And Asheville is a city of just under 100,000 people. So it's not a big city. We do not have a large university. Sometimes agents will be emailing and say, well, you're a college town. And I'm like, we're not a college town. But we're really the only urban place at all within the western third of North Carolina. We've always been kind of a destination. Asheville has always had a big tourism economy, but it's also always been known as this, pretty progressive mountain town. The culture is very come as you are, creative, arts forward. lot of small businesses, not a lot of corporate businesses. Downtown is, this really unique place. It was all boarded up and as good as dead in the late 80s. And some really dedicated people kind of came along and decided to invest in it and preserve it and rescue it. And as such, a lot of small businesses kind of got a good foothold, locally owned small businesses. And so downtown Asheville has become, a huge restaurant scene, a huge brewery scene, lots of little venues, lots of great local retail, and I think maybe only 2 or 3 franchise or corporate owned businesses outside of hotels operate in downtown. So it's just a very local and kind of unique scene that I think is really apparent to people when they visit. People are always kind of struck by how different. It's not a cookie cutter city like so many other southern cities are in particular. And geographically, it has the beautiful mountains all around, which is unique and special, and has served to kind of stop it from becoming like a sprawling Charlotte or Atlanta. I mean, it's just physically not possible because there are pretty big mountains all the way around. It's in a valley. So, as such, it's just kind of been allowed to grow in its own funky little way, and has attracted, always lots of artists, lots of music lovers, pretty good weather, not as hot as the rest of the South, and, a big music loving community. So the Orange Peel has obviously pioneered that and also benefited from that. Whenever I give interviews or talk about it, I don't want to take the credit only as the venue. I mean, it's really a symbiotic relationship. I think the Orange Peel is helped by Asheville being Asheville, and the Orange Peel helps Asheville to be Asheville. But, we're always getting tours where we are the smallest market that the band is playing by 500,000 people all the time, constantly. And yet, we sell out more than 60% of our shows because, it's a great place to visit. And I think so many other great elements are in play in the Asheville area that people from, a driving distance, like your friend in Greenville, tend to make time to come up. So, we're really lucky that we exist in Asheville, and, I hope Asheville in general appreciates having the Orange Peel. I think it's awesome for a community of our size to get the caliber of musical acts that we get regularly.
I wanted to ask, how did the Orange Peel and other venues adapt to the initial shutdown? And how have they continued to adapt since reopening? How did they stay relevant and on the radar when they could not open their doors to musicians and to all the great artists and bands that would love to play the Orange Peel?
I mean, everybody was forced to shut down almost exactly two years ago today. And like I said, we did lose a few venues. We lost 2 venues that never reopened, which was, a real blow to our community here. Because like I said, it's a pretty small town and everybody kind of knows everybody within the scene. And I think we all tried to pivot towards doing virtual shows and, trying to do outreach for our musician community, which is pretty sizable in Asheville. And also, I got really involved in NIVA at that time. And I feel like NIVA was just so critical in helping to bring together small businesses and promoters and venues across the state, across North Carolina. Our little chapter was the Carolina, so it was North and South Carolina. And it was just, we kind of said, hey, let's start talking on Zoom every couple weeks. And I think in each city in the Carolinas, we would have more local groups of us that were in touch. So myself and the other venue managers and owners in Asheville would talk frequently. And that ended up being, one of the real silver linings of the whole thing. Because I think we knew each other, but we kind of existed in our own little silos. And but we really came together to get people involved, to spread the word about like, hey, call your congressperson, call your senator, send these messages, ask them for relief for the events industry, because we were obviously shuttered for a long time. And without that relief, I mean, you would have seen a lot more small venues close. And so NIVA came together and basically wrote a suggested legislation called the Save Our Stages Act, or the Shuttered Venues Grant. The SVOG is what the final legislative term was. And it was, a real slog to get it written, and then to get support from both Democrats and Republicans, and then also to figure out how it would be administered. And, that was a whole fiasco in itself. They opened the grant and it crashed, and it was super dense. I mean, it took my team probably 2 solid months of having 3 or 4 of us doing nothing but working on the grant application, because it was so in depth and thorough. But NIVA really helped. We, as an organization, we tried to reach every small venue, even if you were just a 1-person show owning your little venue and you do the booking and the marketing and you're sweeping the floor. We tried to help everyone have access to apply for the funding federally. And, I just think NIVA did a remarkable job of getting every venue that wanted it relief. And so I think a lot of us in the industry spent a lot of our time, advocating for that and navigating the process once it was passed.
Well, Liz, I think a lot of our viewers are not aware of how large the live music and events industry is. Just so everyone knows, the arts sector employs nearly 5.2 million Americans and contributes $919 billion, that's with a B, billion dollars to our national economy. There are over 675,000 arts-centered businesses present in every congressional district. 99% of entertainment productions canceled events over the last 24 months. That's a loss of $557 million in ticket admissions alone. 63% of creative workers experienced unemployment, and 95% lost income. Just know, folks, that the creative industry accounts for 3.3 of our nation's workforce, and that over 2.7 million arts workers were unemployed for 15 months. So this is a big deal, and it takes really passionate people to step up and lead. Margaret Mead once said, "Never underestimate what a small group of committed and passionate individuals can do." And Liz, I'm sure you will tell us that when it comes to NIVA, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, alone, we never, there's no way, because, to get industry specific federal relief, I mean, even grant programs at a federal government level for for-profit businesses are pretty much unheard of. I mean, it was just remarkable in its effectiveness for helping, small businesses. And I feel like, as complicated as the application process was, the advocacy within NIVA to make sure that the legislation was crafted in a way that it was really designed to help independently owned small businesses, and that there was not a way that, the big corporate giants of the music world could get in and take all the money, was really well done. And it really did go to help, in my community, a town of under 100,000, I think we had like 20 to 25 recipients of Save Our Stages grants. And, these are all small businesses that do under $1 million in revenue for the most part, save for a few of the larger ones. And it was really a lifeline. I mean, without it, there's no way that a small business can stay, open, losing 18 months of revenue, but having to continue to pay their rent and their mortgage and their insurance and their utilities. Not to mention, as you said, having lost all of their employees and having to hire new employees and, the expenses of starting back up again. So, it was just to me, it was just an amazing success that NIVA was able to really rescue an entire industry that has so many kind of, it has there are so many neighboring impacts from every venue, because when you think about a venue, it's usually an anchor in whatever area it is in. When you go out to see live music, it's an event. You also go to dinner. You may take an Uber. You may stay in a hotel. You may hire childcare. It's a lot. It's not just like, oh, let me run down to, my neighborhood restaurant down the street. It's people tend to spend a lot of ancillary revenue when they go out and support live events. And so I think, the effects of rescuing all of these small venues and performing arts centers and theaters and all those people were included in the legislation. It was just huge for communities and for the people that work there and for artists that rely on those places to be able to play. So, it was remarkable that something like that could be put together by a bunch of, venue owners who don't know anything about government, but had enough of a will to survive that they said, well, we're going to figure it out.
I've always thought of venue owners, venue people, quite often they are the decision makers and gatekeepers, making that decision on whether you're going to jump on their stage or you're not going to jump on their stage. And Liz, I'm sure you can agree with this across the board. These people are the most passionate, enthusiastic music lovers on the face of this world torn asunder.
Very true. Yeah. And I think venue people are used to being really scrappy and, it's a big risk. It's a very risky business. You're often guaranteeing money to performers and you may or may not make it back and you're on the hook for it regardless. And also it has traditionally been an industry where everybody wears many hats, that's certainly true in my venue. And I think, meeting everyone from NIVA, that's true everywhere. So the good thing about that is it prepares you to say, okay, well, I'm going to roll up my sleeves and tackle whatever comes at me, even if I've never done it before, so that's been just so impressive. I feel like the group of leaders from NIVA who came together could pretty much overcome any challenge you threw at them, even if it was completely unrelated to the music industry. I mean, it's just really remarkable how tenacious and creative and resourceful everybody was.
Well, it's been said, Liz, the past is history, the future's a mystery. All we've got is the present. That's why they call it a gift. And the last 24 months, I am sure you've been 50% organizer, 50% psychologist, but let's talk about the present. Can you give us some optimistic news? And can you talk about the electricity at the Orange Peel for the events recently where people are just literally jumping out of their skin? They're so ecstatic to be back.
Yeah, I mean, and that is true. I think there is so much pent up desire and demand to get back and experience events together in a group. That's really where the magic happens with any kind of live performance, but particularly music. I mean, you really feed off the energy of everyone else that you're having that unique experience with. So, we still at the Orange Peel indoors at our indoor venue, we still had a bunch of COVID cancellations even this January and February. But as we've gotten into spring this month, for example, in March, we have 30 shows in 31 days. So, and we're a single room. We're not the kind of venue where, I know there are those venues that have 5 different rooms playing at the same time under one roof, but we're not. We're just one big room with one stage. So that's about as busy as we can get. And everything has, sold really well, even with that much saturation in a pretty small market, which I think goes to show you that there is just such an appetite to get back out there and see live music again. And I think it's been really healing for people. And, the energy has just been amazing. And I can't tell you, I was on a board meeting call earlier this morning, and, a lot of the board are older folks who don't necessarily go to live music, but 2 of the 15 people were like, hey, I went to this show at the Orange Peel last night, and I was at this show on Saturday, and it was so great. So, I really do think all kinds of people are just hungry to get back out there and have those experiences. And that goes for bands are, so ready to get back on the road and do what they do. And so I do think that, I feel optimistic about the industry. I think we've learned a lot. And I think we are more prepared to handle whatever next curveball is thrown at us than we were before this. We formed NIVA, and we now have that advocacy network and support going forward. So, I do feel optimistic about the future of live music. And I also feel really heartened by how much support local venues got from their communities. It just went to show how important it is to folks.
Well, it is true, Liz. A lot of these cherished venue owners and proprietors and booking people, they really have spent their career giving of themselves ungrudgingly, helping out up and coming talented bands and artists. And they don't ask for a whole lot in return. So, ladies and gentlemen, viewing this episode of Hip to the Scene, the time has come. You can't wait any longer. We need to support the National Independent Venue Association. Because as much as we'd all like to be, hey, this is over, we're going back to normal, please know that NIVA needs your support now more than ever. Is that correct, Liz?
Yeah, that's very correct. We're a brand new organization. We've got all kinds of new challenges on the horizon, as always, in this industry. And so, yeah, we need support to be able to survive. And our mission is to help keep these small businesses afloat and strong. And so I encourage everybody to think about how many other lives are affected by having successful, independently owned small venues in your community. Helping to preserve those businesses and institutions stops your town from becoming, a bunch of corporate owned, I won't name names, but, there's just really something to be said for keeping locally owned, mom and pop shop venues in every community for the arts, for the whole, for the musicians, for the fans, for the neighboring restaurants, for the downtowns, for all of those things. It's just hugely important. And that's what NIVA does.
I am very excited that you were able to take time out of your busy March. Wow, 31 shows or 30 shows in 31 days, putting together events I mean, folks show up at the venue and they never really think much about how much time and effort went into it. But I'm quite certain that the people who are viewing this transmission, they're creatives. They know how much goes into a successful live event. So at this point in time, I'm going to give you a link, a website. It is NIVASSOC.org. So it's NIVAAssoc.org. But what you need to do, ladies and gentlemen, is put the /donate. Donate some of your hard-earned income to these incredible, talented people that are fighting the good fight on your behalf and advocating on your behalf. And Liz, NIVA has some great merch. Why don't you tell the viewers about it?
Yeah, we've got t-shirts, we've got special limited edition things that, different venues put forth. So you can get us Save Our Stages merch or some of our just NIVA branded merch on the website. And I'd also encourage you to buy merch from your local venue. We all sell a lot of band merch, but we might not sell that much of our own venues merch. And that, that's every dollar helps. And it also helps to keep our little brands out there. At the Orange Peel, we always get so excited when we see some major artist go on, like the Jimmy Fallon show, wearing their Orange Peel shirt. So that's always huge to keep all of our brands relevant. So support your local venues by buying merch, and support NIVA by buying NIVA merch too.
All right, one last plug for the National Independent Venue Association. Everybody viewing this episode of Hip to the Scene is now hip to the scene that there is an organization, an association out there that wasn't even an organization or an association 24 months ago, but necessity is the mother of all invention. And when push comes to shove, you need to come together and you need to form a community. And this is a community that is 100% worthy of your support. So please, as soon as you're done watching this broadcast, you need to go to NIVASSOC.org. Learn more about NIVA. Learn about their story. Talk about not folding up like a cheap lawn chair, ladies and gentlemen. These folks were knocked down. They got right back up, dusted themselves off. It's just an incredible story of tenacity and sticking to your guns. And though this story is certainly not over, one thing is for certain, Liz, going to NIVASSOC.org, NIVAAssoc.org/donate is what they need to do right now.
Yes. Thank you for everybody who wrote your Congress people and has supported us all along. And if you're new to learning about us, please go to the website, and if you can afford it, NIVA appreciates your support, and you will be helping keep your local performing arts community strong and independent.
Fantastic, Liz. It's going to be an amazing spring in the Blue Ridge Mountains. Everybody's going to be flocking to the Orange Peel. I've already seen that you guys, though you're somewhat off the beaten path, you get such incredible top-notch talent, and everybody's just itching to get back into the venue and hear those amplifiers and feel that electricity and heck, not feel so all alone. So Liz Tallent, thank you so much for being a guest on Hip to the Scene.